Okay, let's talk about the GKS interview.
hmm
Did you have an online or in-person interview?
Because it was COVID during that time, so I had two interviews actually. The first interview was an online interview through Skype
Mhm.
for the embassy interview. So we have gotten the shortlisted candidates. So we did an interview with the embassy through Skype. And the second interview was actually a phone call interview with one of the selected universities, uh, which was Keimyung. So they actually scheduled a phone call interview after the second round.
Mhm.
So they said like, we want to know you more. And one of the things that I was really tense because the phone call interview was conducted fully in Korean. So I
Oh,
had to do a lot of preparation for that. But the online interview with the embassy was half half. It was Korean and English.
okay.
Yeah.
And how many interviewers were there?
Um, so for the embassy interview, there were three interviewers. There were two officers from the embassy
Mhm.
and one university professor who was Korean.
Mhm.
Yeah. So and I was the only interviewee during my session.
Okay. And how long was the interview?
Uh, the interview was around 7 minutes. I was actually, to be honest, we had a group, like all the shortlisted candidates, we actually had a group. So we wanted to, like in a way, we helped. It was a really, I would say, a collaborative effort for all of us because we know all of us want to be GKS scholars. So we were supporting each other throughout along the way. So we had the group, and then we were telling like, oh, okay, next is you're next. So we were all preparing for it. So mine was 7 minutes, and I was one of the fastest interview sessions. The others were more than 10 minutes, but mine was like 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of the shortest, and I was like thinking because during the interview, when I was answering the question, uh, I heard more than once that the panelists or the interviewers actually said that, oh, you actually answered the question before I actually asked you. And I was thinking, oh no, did I do something wrong or did I answer too much? And actually, one of the panelists mentioned that no, it means that you're really prepared and you know what we want. So instead of them asking me a lot of questions, I actually compiled and answered in one. So that's why my interview was really short. They at like after asking few questions, they actually mentioned, we don't have any questions to ask actually. So the interview ended.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
if you're one of my interviewees, then you'll never be able to see me again.
Oh no.
Well, you just kidding. You probably outstanding among the interviewees, so that's why they didn't have to spend a lot of time asking you questions to get to know you.
I I hope so. I hope that was the case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how was the atmosphere during the interview?
The atmosphere was really calm. At first when it started, it was like a bit tense because in every interview session, it's always the starting point that you're worried like, okay, how do I make myself, presentable? How do I make a good start? So I actually prepared like about a minute of self-introduction in Korean,
Hmm.
stating like my background and also my intended major and also why I decided to study in Korea, to choose to study in Korea. So the panelists were also like the moment I completed the self introduction, everything became like like more relaxed because oh they know me and they also started to ask more questions related to my course of study. They also asked like what are my future plans. So the panelists were really friendly and
Hmm.
they were really nice. So the atmosphere was actually really calm and relaxed. It's not like really tense. It was a good interview session.
And what about the other interview conducted by Keimyung University?
For that phone call interview, because it was on phone,
Hmm.
like I didn't really see the professor, but before the interview session, I actually went through the website and to make sure that I know the interviewer. So when they interviewed for an interview session, they actually, when they sent me an email, they actually wrote down like who's the professor who's going to interview me. So I went to the website and I actually checked the profile of the professor. So it gave me some background instead of like not knowing who it was. So I knew like that professor was also majoring in a specific area in early childhood. Yeah. So the phone call was about 5 minutes. And because it was all in Korean, I actually had to prepare the script to make sure that, you know, if any questions were asked, I'm able to answer. Yeah, so yeah, it was a 5-minute interview. I would say it was more stressed for me for the phone call interview than the embassy interview, because the phone call interview was like, at that time, I would say I didn't really have much Korean skills yet. So when I was preparing the script, I had to make sure that, you know, I was using the proper grammar. I was using the correct words to, you know, convey my message or to explain why I wanted to study the course. Yeah, so to compare, the phone interview was actually more stressful for me.
I'm I'm curious about why they conducted the interview in Korean. Did they inform you
Yes,
beforehand?
they didn't inform me beforehand, but I actually asked. No, I didn't ask. I asked if it's possible for me to prepare the interview in English and Korean, because they mentioned that the course will be conducted in Korean. So they also see that I did not submit a topic score. So they were interested to know if I'm able to actually speak Korean. So that's the reason why they wanted to conduct the interview in Korean.
So when choosing the three universities,
Yeah.
had you already known that the Kamyang only offers the early childhood education major in Korean, 100%?
Yes, I've actually checked through the university list, and the one offered by Kamyong was 100% in Korean. So
Okay.
I was prepared for actually an interview, but fully Korean, yeah, that was more preparation needed.
Were you confident that you would be able to improve your Korean for the first year of the Korean language study program?
Yes, I was confident, and it was also my challenge, because I mean, if I were to further my studies, or if I have more like any future plans, I would need to be very proficient in the language. So yeah, that was my self challenge, and that's why currently I'm really studying a lot to make sure that I have a good topic score before I start my graduate program.
Oh, okay. But ironically, you decided to go to Seoul National University
Yes.
instead,
Oh, yeah.
implying that
So
I'm not really confident improving my Korean, and so that I can do my PhD in Korean at Keimyung University. No?
no. Actually, even in Seoul National University and for Busan National University, the course is actually in Korean.
Oh, 100%
So
Korean?
yeah. So anyhow, because for my major, it was not offered to 100% in English unless I applied for the GSIS. But my course is not offered in GSIS. So I have to make sure that my Korean proficiency level is high for any of the courses I select in any university.
I'm sorry, but what is GSIS?
GSIS is actually the graduate studies of the graduate school of international studies.
Offered by
So
which
uh,
university?
there are a lot of universities that actually have GSIS, but the one that I have actually searched for was actually in Seoul National University. So for GSIS, or the Graduate School for International Studies, the courses are offered in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually one of the very popular choices for international students, because they do not need to have a very high level in Korean proficiency to apply. But it's also really competitive
Right.
because it's English. So a lot of people would actually apply for that school or graduate school. Yeah.
Okay. So did the three universities you chose also offer the GSIS programs?
For me, when I was going through, only Seoul National University and Busan National University offer that. For Kamyong, no, it's only just the department itself. Yeah.
And do you remember some interview questions you received?
I actually have a list of it. The first question was actually asking why did I choose to study in Korea? Then the second question was why did I choose the university, the three universities, because I was applying through embassy track. And the panelists also wanted to know more about the choice of my major, like why am I interested to study early childhood education? So along the way, I've also added that I was really interested because I was watching, I'm not sure if you know, The Return of Superman. So it's actually a very famous variety program. And that was actually one of the reasons why I was really interested to study in Korea, because going through the program, I've seen so much of the Korean families emphasizing on education, but not the education as in going to Hakwon, going to academies, but more to the early years, like when they're young, they really go for regular checkup to make sure the children are healthy, and then they also make sure that the children are exposed to a lot of books, a lot of educational materials to help them have a good start. So that's one of the reasons why I've actually chosen to further my studies here. And they also asked what are my future plans after my graduation, and how can I contribute to the Korean-Malaysian relationship in the future. So that's what I think they will want to know, like what can I contribute. And for this question, actually, a lot of GKS applicants, they actually DM'd and asked like, oh, what should I answer if they were to ask this question? So I always say that for this, you have to look back at your contribution. Okay, what can you do? So for me, because I have experience in research and publication, so upon my application, I have three research paper publications, and I was also in the research team. So I'll have like build my experiences based on research. So my contribution would be to do more research and also attend conferences to actually have to build more educational exchanges and cultural exchanges between Korea and Malaysia. Yeah.
All right. And what are some tips to ace an interview?
I'm sure all of the GKS streamers have watched a lot of your YouTube videos. And to be honest, I was watching them too when I was preparing, and I was like going through, even after being selected, I was still watching your videos because I find them really informative. And the tips to ace interviews, to add on to what you have already shared, like a lot of good points, is preparation. Like for me, preparation is key. So when preparing for the interview, make sure to have a list of potential interview questions and prepare answers. As much as you want the interview to be impromptu, like, oh, when they ask me, I'll just answer what I have in mind. Sometimes you may go blank. So always prepare a short script and be confident and stay grounded. Because when you're when you're expressing what you want to do, and when you're telling them, oh, I really want to study in Korea, this is my dream, when your enthusiasm and sincerity really shows that, oh, you really want it. As much as, sometimes you say you need to make sure that you have to just answer like a robot. Sometimes when you're answering and you're showing that I really want it, I'm really interested to study in Korea, and I've done a lot of preparation, your facial expressions and your body language will show that you're really sincere and you truly want it. So yeah, be true to yourself if you really want it, you have worked hard for it. In the interview, just present, your best. So yeah, I think that
Agreed.
would be my tip.
Be yourself, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about entry to South Korea and self-quarantine. How long did it take to receive a visa?
For my case, it was just 5 working days. So for us, Malaysian GKS applicants, what we need to do is we needed to reserve a spot through the consular service. And then once we have gotten a spot, an appointment, we just need to bring all the things that we have filled in. So in the consular service, when we apply for visa, we just need to fill in a form. So after filling in the form, you just need to print it and bring it to the embassy. And then they will give us a visa issuance confirmation number. And after 5 days, we just need to check online, and we already gotten the visa. But on top of that, please only apply for the visa once you have all the relevant information. So the Korean Language Institute or the university, they would actually provide a admission letter. So it's actually a university admission letter. So with that admission letter, they will have all the information that you will need to fill in when you're applying for the visa. Because sometimes when you're filling in, and then there's like, oh, I don't know this, like a registration number, or the address or the code. There are certain information that you need to fill in. So yeah, just have to make sure that you have all the required information before applying to make sure that it's a smooth process. So all that being done, it just took about 5 days, 5 working days.
And how much did it cost to arrive in Korea in US dollar?
The visa was covered, so we didn't have to pay. The flight tickets were booked by our KLI, Chonnam National University. Our coordinator actually booked our flight tickets for us. I think the only thing that I had to pay was to do the PCR test before departure. Yeah, so it was just $100.
100 US dollars.
Yeah, 100 US.
That's pretty expensive.
I mean, the flight tickets were really expensive too, and we were lucky that it's covered. So we'll always be thankful for the little things.
Oh, you're such a thankful person. Well, that's a spirit.
Yeah.
Keep it up. And what are must-bring items to Korea?
Technically, we can get almost everything here in Korea. So for me, I think the must-bring items would be a travel adapter. Because like we have a different topic, so we have to bring a travel adapter. If you want, you can bring an extension. And then another thing that I think one of the things that we often forget is medication. Because when we are abroad, sometimes if you want a specific medication, maybe in Korea they have a different name or they might not have it.
Right.
So especially if you have allergies, so just bring medication in case. And then bring, if it's possible, just bring a credit card for emergency. And also, I brought my traditional clothes for me, like during cultural exchange. So apart from that, I think that's all, because to be honest, you can actually get anything you want in Korea. I actually just came with one luggage.
One luggage?
Yeah, one big luggage, and that's all. Because
must be a professional traveler.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a professional traveler, but I want to travel light because I know the journey. Even from Malaysia to Seoul is not that far, but upon arrival at Seoul, I needed to come to Gwangju, which is a little further away. So I had to consider that, I wouldn't want to be carrying so much of luggage with me along the way, and it's going to just be so difficult. So I just brought one luggage and just one hand carry, and yeah, and that's all. So other than that, if like the future GKS applicants, or for them who are coming, please also make sure to bring a vaccination record from your country, because upon arrival in Korea, you can actually get your vaccination record registered in the Kuvi app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they will require all the vaccination record, your first dose, your second dose, your booster dose, and the dates,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can update in the system. Yeah, it helps a lot, especially if you're wanting to move around in Korea.
Right.
Like if you want to go to a restaurant, you want to pack some food, or you want to go to a cafe, they would need the app to
Mm-hmm.
know that, oh, you have been vaccinated. So I think that will be one of the must bring items, during this period of corona.
All right. And where did you self-quarantine for 14 days?
I actually self-quarantined in the Chonnam National University dormitory. So it was 14 days. The coordinator helped us a lot in preparing everything. So when we reached Korea, we had a bus at the train station. So from Seoul to Gwangju, we took the KGS.
Mm-hmm.
So upon arrival, the Chonnam National University, they actually have a bus that will send us directly to the dorm. So in the dorm room, we had the toiletries, we had beddings. Yeah, so that was the quarantine of 14 days.
So did you move from Incheon to Gwangju by train?
Yes, on our own.
On your own. Okay.
Yeah, because if we didn't all arrive at the same day. So there were some that arrived on the same day as I did. There were some who arrived earlier and some who arrived later, depending on the country regulations, because some countries require them to be quarantined for a day at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's best to check with the country. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, we took a bus. But before coming to the dorm, we had to do a PCR test.
Okay.
So it was KTX station, PCR test, then the dormitory
Dormitory.
for the 14-day quarantine.
Okay. And were the travel expenses reimbursed?
Yes, it was all reimbursed later on when we got our allowance, but not so fast. I think it was after 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
because again, some GKS scholars arrive a month later because of the country restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
So our coordinator makes sure that once everyone has arrived, then they slowly reimburse the money that we have paid.
And how was the quarantine on campus?
It was actually a good experience because I have not been quarantined before. So this was my first quarantine and it was 14 days. I've heard from, that you'll be bored, you'll be like, you don't know what to do. But to me, I actually enjoyed my quarantine a lot because it was the time where I didn't have to work after so long. And I was actually enjoying quarantine because I get to do my hobbies, like keeping myself occupied with like knitting, drawing, painting, or like watching some dramas on Netflix. So it wasn't bad at all. And we had 3 meals a day. So at 3 times at 9 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m., you'll hear the door knock, tock, tock, and okay, it's food. So yeah, it was all like a routine for 14 days. Yeah, but one of the things is that I realized that we were eating so much, so I actually had to exercise in the room because we were quarantined, so we don't move that much. So I actually make sure that I have to exercise in the room. But one of the things that I was having some difficulty was actually to wash the clothes because we didn't have a washing machine in the room. So we were given detergent in our kit. So we were given a kit upon arrival. So inside there were toiletries and also like detergent, so we could actually wash our clothes. So yeah, so that was also like better than not having it. So we wash it, and for me, because I was going through Korean websites about recycling. So when we got our meals, it was in like the tostirak, so it's like in the box. So
And
with
it's
the
all plastic, right?
Yeah, it was all plastic, and then for me, I was like, yeah, I have to clean because I was reading, it's just something that we have to do here. Like in Malaysia, we don't sort our trash. So here, that much. But in Korea, we have to. So after every meal, I was washing, and every meal came with a set of spoon and fork and chopsticks, which are always new. So because the first set that I used, I keep reusing them. So I had like towards the 14-day, at the end of the 14-day quarantine, I had so much of plastic utensils with me that I didn't use. So I actually kept them. But yeah, after the 14-day quarantine, I was actually told by the coordinator that I didn't need to wash them.
Oh.
Because they understood that we were in quarantine. So we couldn't have access, like we couldn't sort our trash so much. But that was one of the things I was doing in quarantine. I was sorting my trash, and it was actually quite fun.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what you did for the great nature.
Yes, and I'm actually really thankful that I did that, because I learned more about it. So for me, sorting trash now is not a problem at all.
Yeah, you should be proud of yourself.
Yes, for Mother Nature.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
All right, and is your monthly allowance enough to live in Korea?
My monthly allowance in Korea, because I'm in Gwangju now. So to be honest, the food here is affordable. I can actually get, if I'm not picky with food. So my monthly allowance, we pay about 150,000 won for our dorm per month. So we stay at a dorm, we pay for our dorm. 150,000 won is relatively cheap, because it's Gwangju, it's not in Seoul. I can't imagine in Seoul, but in Gwangju, yeah. And the food prices are affordable. Like for 4,000 or 5,000, you can get a meal. So I would say the monthly allowance for now in Gwangju is enough. That's why I'm actually saving so that I can prepare before I move to Seoul in September.
Okay. To enjoy your Seoul life, you're saving a lot of money.
Yes, definitely. But we do also have a resettlement allowance during the first month. So we are paid extra 200,000 won as a resettlement allowance. So just go to Daiso and get all the toiletries that we need, because it's the cheapest there. It's a plus point. Yeah, so in a way, 1 million monthly allowance is actually sufficient. Yeah, for a daily life. Yeah.
And how far is Chonnam National University away from Seoul?
Chonnam National University is around 3.5 hours away from Seoul. We can actually, like from Seoul, if we want to go to Seoul, or if you're from Seoul coming to Chonnam National University, you can either take the intercity bus, or you can take the KTX. So in terms of the duration, it's 2.5 hours for KTX and 3.5 hours for bus. But I will recommend the bus, because from Chonnam National University is just about 20 minutes away from the bus terminal.
Okay.
But if you want to take the KTX, it's an hour away.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's actually more convenient to travel by bus. And the intercity, the terminal, you can actually go to any different cities. Yeah. So I've checked. Seoul to Gwangju is 268 kilometers. So it's far, but I'm actually enjoying the south part of Korea, CNU, Gwangju so far. So far so good.
Great. And how is the language program, and how are the Korean teachers at Chonnam National University?
The language program is good. The teachers are really experienced. They're also really helpful. They're always asking. It's fully conducted in Korean, so we get to practice a lot. And the teachers actually encourage us to ask more questions, and they're always ever so helpful if we need any explanation. So yeah, it's a little intensive, I would have to say, but it's really fun because the more we learn, the more we realize that, there are quite some similarities that we can use in our daily life. So the language program so far is intensive because in this 6 months, It's not 6 months yet. We actually started in September. So approaching 6 months. So we've completed 2 semesters. So that's already 2 levels. So yeah, it's really interesting because the more I learn, the more I realize there's more to learn. So yeah, can't wait for the next level.
Yeah, that's what study is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more I study about a certain subject, the more I get confused.
Yeah, I mean, we get confused, and then that's where it becomes fun because you want to find more answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what are some tips to improve Korean?
To improve Korean, I always tell myself that I should have studied Korean more seriously. But when I'm here, I would say the tips to improve Korean is actually find a balance. It's not just, like it's not always just learning about grammar. Because a lot of times when people talk about Korean language, they say like, oh, the grammar is so difficult. But finding a balance between grammar, vocabulary, and also do writing and also colloquial. The language is also the more you use it, the more you converse with others, the better it is. So at first, it might be a bit scary to speak to Koreans, but after a while, with practice, it's just like the moment you start talking to them, it becomes a little bit easier along the way. Yeah, so learning from everyday experiences would actually help a lot. Not only in Korean, not only staying in Korean, but the everyday experiences will help a lot in the topic exam.
Right.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it.
Yes, correct.
All right, 2 more questions. What are your plans after finishing your PhD program?
After finishing my PhD program, I'm hoping to probably work in Korea for a year or so. I hope to be involved more in the research and publication, especially in my major, and also work closely with professors in universities to learn more from them, and filling in any gaps or research. Other than that, if I have a chance, I would also want to work in organizations like UNICEF so that I can be a part of educational research for children, throughout the world, like not only Malaysia and Korea, but also for the other countries as well. Yeah.
For the global citizens.
Yes.
All right. Would you please say a few encouraging words to our GKS dreamers?
All right. So for GKS dreamers, always believe in yourself and always be sure of what you want. So build your profile as much as you can with your experiences and your skills. And if applying for GKS is what you want, work for it. Everything will slowly fall in place, one step at a time.
Awesome. That's it for today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time as well.
And I hope all the best for your academic dreams.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now, enjoy your stay.
Enjoy your stay.